According to the Post Bulletin, report shows that plagiarism by the RPS superintendents has happened again. Rochester Public Schools Superintendent Michael Munoz. I knew you would know, Craig. That's why I looked to you. Munoz is accused of plagiarism again. Munoz, did I say that right?
Munoz.
Munoz.
Okay.
Munoz.
With all due
Like
respect.
moon, like the anal swab moon,
Yes.
like we talked about before.
Yes.
Munoz.
Sure.
Okay. Munoz apologized for plagiarizing a letter he sent to staff about the holiday over Thanksgiving break. The school board then suspended Munoz. I got it right. For 5 days without pay. Do we need to keep reading? He was a graduation speech in 2019. I'll just say this part. That he gave at Century High School looked identical to a 2017 graduation speech in Reading Public Schools in Massachusetts. And then also a 2020 graduation speech seemed to also kind of be similar to a Birmingham, Alabama speech.
Well, I think it's good you get background on it so the viewers know. I mean, obviously
we can talk about the
Yeah.
background, but the verbatim, I don't know.
I think we need to hold our leadership accountable. And if we expect the best from our students, or not even the best, if we expect fairness from our students, he needs to lead by example and do the same thing. And I think the petition that has been put together with parents and staff and citizens is up to like 600 people asking for him to step down.
It's 700 and something as of this morning.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, people are upset, and he needs to be held accountable for his actions, in my opinion, laziness. And the school board needs to be held accountable for extending his contract. And their hiring practices, they're kind of 0 for 2 for our last two superintendents. You know, the previous one is sitting in jail down in Georgia.
Wow.
I don't know. There's better people out there for the job. And I think we owe it to our students to have the best leadership available. And I've done some public speaking, not like you have, and I look at other people's speeches for ideas, but you always need to put your own twist on it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that quite a bit too, Craig, and I'm glad you brought that up because I've given in the neighborhood of pushing 500 speeches. A lot of them are very similar to the same ones that I give, but there's, let's say I've probably written, say, 180 separate speeches. Everything that we do, everything that we read forms and frames the way we think. And so we have to read books. We have to do this to form our thinking. We have to have conversations like we're having right now to form our thinking. But that is very different than what he's done here because he's actually taken the speech and verbatim.
Claimed it.
I mean, he did it verbatim.
Without giving credit.
Right.
Yes.
He should have added
Yes.
that and said, and this section was taken from, or if he went then, but the way he handled it was not cool.
And for $225,000 or $228,000 a year, spend a little time and make it your own.
If you're and so when I first started doing it, it was really hard for me to write a speech. It was extremely hard. I could, right now, if I had to speak on a completely foreign subject, I could probably do it in about a day. I would have to research for about 4 or 5 hours, and then I would write the 20, 30-minute speech the last half of the day. Now, it wouldn't probably be the best speech I ever put together, but you can do it pretty quick. Now, if you're in his situation and you've done graduations and you are around these students and around these people, it should have taken him to do a 20-minute speech, probably 20 minutes to write it.
And he's got how many administrative people that could help him with it?
Yeah.
There's a huge
They give him
cabinet
an
with
outline.
Rochester Public
He
Schools.
could give them an outline, and they could, tie up the loose
And
ends.
how many English teachers and lit teachers are hired by the school district?
When
Yeah.
you're in that capacity, aren't you put in that position to give a speech based on who you are? I mean, that's what I think is so phony, is because now he's using somebody else's speech. But, why wouldn't you put your, like you said, your own spin on it? But you're in that capacity as the superintendent, and people are looking up to you in more ways than one. And why are you not using your own words? I mean, something's missing there. Why is he not using his own words or his own spin on it, or
Yeah, it's a deeper
circumstances?
problem is what I think I hear you say.
Yeah. And wasn't there a letter too also that he put out?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
what I
there's
said
a
at
letter.
first, the
Or the
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving COVID letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, what I mean?
And you can use other people's speeches for a framework,
Right.
but
Or
in your
inspiration.
own-
Yeah.
Or inspiration.
Put in
Yeah.
your own words. I mean, it's not rocket surgery.
Yeah.
Rocket surgery. I like
And I
that.
know that I find, like, I do a lot of writing, and I definitely am inspired by others as well. But one of my biggest things that I try to do, because, I have my own thoughts and feelings, is I'm inspired by others, but I catch myself almost not reading their stuff or watching their stuff on TED Talks because I don't want it to come across as plagiarism or just using someone else's words. I want it to be my own. And my question for Munoz, if I'm saying it right, pardon me, is this his first? Was this his first? Has he done many others in the past, or?
I don't know what his
Yeah.
is.
As
I
far
was
as
just-
speeches?
yeah.
Oh, if you're a superintendent, you're doing a lot of
it quite a
speeches,
bit,
for
right?
sure.
Yeah.
And he's obviously never has had this before. So
That
the
we
word that
know
comes
of.
to
Right.
mind is it laziness, or is it, or because
That's
he
what
got
I'm saying.
caught, right?
Or
So
incompetency.
he
Right.
got caught.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And we're
what's going
telling our
on there?
kids, write a report, go home, write a report. But if they cut and paste anything off the internet, right away, a teacher's computer work software can tell that was cut and pasted or copied from something. But then, going back to holding him accountable, he's doing the exact same thing. So how do you stand by example for your students with that kind of
Has he
mannerisms and behavior?
apologized? Has he come out? What is his? I mean, I guess I
He
didn't read that.
apologized for the
He did.
Thanksgiving
Okay,
letter,
thank
but
you.
not for the other thing that
Okay.
yeah.
I'm really surprised it's only at 700. I don't know when the petition started. I think just a couple days ago.
This morning it was at 750 or
Okay.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
According to official news sources.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I did some research too, and he's not the first. The superintendent in Winona, I think 3 years ago, stepped down because he plagiarized his doctorate.
I think I heard about
thesis.
that. Yeah,
And there
it's a
was
big one.
another superintendent.
Was that Casey something?
West?
Casey West? Is that his name?
I'm not sure.
No.
But then there was another superintendent in Texas that,
I heard of.
and they were thinking he may have been framed, but he stepped down for the same thing, that he plagiarized his doctorate thesis, whatever it is. I haven't done one, so I don't know what it's called. But, these other superintendents are, I think, doing the right thing on stepping down.
Yeah. Hold
I
him
don't
accountable.
know what that would
Yeah.
show for his future if he would be able to get another job as a superintendent, but maybe he shouldn't be a superintendent.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe he should stick to being a principal or a step down from being
Yeah,
a
I think there's deeper problems there if you're doing that this much.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying that once is acceptable. I am not in any shape or form. But
We all
he
make
did
mistakes.
it. We all make
People make
mistakes. we all do this,
mistakes.
But he did
Yes.
multiple times. You know what I mean? And he's done a lot of great things for our school district. I'm not knocking the man at all, but this isn't right.
And
like
one
you
of
said,
the speeches that he gave, the graduation speech, I literally listened to that part of it on one of the articles, and they pasted what the copy was,
Yeah, I
and
saw
it's
that.
literally verbatim.
yes.
Wow.
I
saw
mean,
that.
it is literally verbatim.
And it
And
could have
that-
been so easily changed. It could have just like, this guy inspired
20
me.
minutes,
Yeah.
you could change it up and
Or,
make it
you
sound
know
like
what,
your own.
Matt
Yeah.
Logan, I read this in his and I enjoyed it so much. I just want to share that with you.
Right.
I'm
Problem
going to quote
solved.
FDR.
Yeah.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
Sourcing.
Nothing.
It just
Yeah.
makes you
Sourcing.
think. It's just all about he made it his own. He was Paula Abduling it. Make it your own. And all he had to do was just give credit. You know, that's all he had to do. And I'm with you, Lisa, about everybody makes mistakes and it's all about learning from it, but it's also about being held accountable. And it's also how you handle it. You know, that's why I was asking him, like, did he come out? Did he apologize for it? Did he admit he made a mistake? Because we all make mistakes, right? But if he's making multiple and it's continuous and we all have children. I have children in the school system, Rochester school system. So yeah, I have a little bit of an issue with that, especially when you continuously encourage our children not to plagiarize. Please don't be doing it.
Right.
Right. And I think this is going to be very telling for the school board when they meet next month, because they can't talk about it with open meeting laws. They really have to wait till I think it's like February 2nd meeting. And I think this is a make it or break it for the school board and how they handle this. You know, granted, his 5-day suspension was for something that happened in November, and these other occurrences happened prior to that. But how many chances do you get?
Yeah, I think it sets a precedence for sure.
Right.
Listening to you talk about this, I was just thinking, I love how some of the former students and the parents are standing up and saying, you know, publicly that, hey, this isn't right. They're not giving necessarily a solution that I saw, which I'm not saying I have one either. But students continue to ask me, we want to help, we want to do this, we want to drive awareness and all that kind of stuff. And the thing that I tell each of them, what are you doing in your school? And you know what the answer is? Well, nothing. And the second part of that is they say, well, that's really hard to do with people we know. And if you can't do it with the people you know, I mean, I've spoke at Byron High School, you know, the high school my daughter went to, many times. It's hard, super hard. But if you can't do that, if you can't go and do it in your local circle, then we can't holler and say president should be accountable. We can't holler and say that the governor should be accountable. We have to dig into the trenches and fight locally first.
Yep.
And I love that these former students are doing that. I love that these parents are doing that, because that's what it takes to make the big change. And I'm not saying that it needs to be a change in my way or Lisa's way or Harmony's way, but that's how you make that change, is you start in your small circle, you start local. And I love that about this article. Nice. I love that about what these former students are doing.
And it goes to show, you know, we haven't talked about it, but I ran for city council this last year, and so many people were so focused on the national race and all of that they just completely, in my opinion, not because I was in it, but I don't think people paid attention to the local politics. And your local politics have more of an influence on your daily life than the national politics do. Whether it's the city council or the school board,
county commissioners, they're going to affect your everyday. Your president is not going to typically affect your everyday. So I really think that people need to pay attention to those local elections and at least educate yourself before voting day. And we'll find out with the school board.
Absolutely.
And didn't we have a hard time going back? I mean, my kids are all out of school now, but didn't we have a hard time with our school board member anyways? Didn't we go through a lot of voting and interim different things here in the last couple of years before we got him, right? So haven't we had a lot of turmoil with Rochester School Board?
Well, that's what Craig was talking about earlier.
The previous superintendent was
So, I mean,
sketchy at best.
we're not, you know, I mean, we're kind of making a bad name for Rochester right now, Med City, you know, and then we're having problems with the school board. I mean, that's not good.
My opinion is we need to do better for our kids, and we need to hire the best person for the job because of who the person is and not political agendas or affirmative action. I said we need to hire the best people for the job. And it scares me the direction that the world's going because of that.
Right.
Of they're hiring because they fit a profile, not because of their qualifications. That's the nice way to put it.
That is a deep rabbit hole right there. And I have the opportunity to
Good job,
speaking.
Craig. Handled that well.
I have the opportunity to speak with a lot of different people every single week at airports, in Ubers and Lyfts, and I mean hotels and everywhere. And I mean, you know, several years ago, I'm in an elevator in a hotel, and a friend of mine calls me and he says, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm just in an elevator. I might lose you." And he says, "Well, how many people are in the elevator?" And I said, "Well, there's 3 other people." And he says, "So you've made 3 other friends, or made 3 new friends?" And so that's kind of the thing. Like, no matter if I'm in an elevator for a few seconds, I'm talking to people. So I love to talk to people. And the people that hate that and hate is a very, very strong word, but the people that really hate that affirmative action thing are the people who immigrate legally, who are of different races. And I talk to them all of the time. In fact, just one yesterday, I was in Tucson, and he's talking about this and his family and his wife and all these things. And they're like, we're so scared that all these things are going to become a lot worse than they are right now. He said segregation has never been, they've been here for many, many years legally. And he said segregation has never been worse than it is in the last couple of years. And he starts going down that path, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now, but I just think you gave an opportunity to talk about it a little bit deeper, and they want to work hard to be qualified. These people that are put in these quote unquote minority groups and things like that, and the majority of them, they want to work really hard and they want to earn it. They don't want it given to them. Exactly. Says the white guy with clearly white privilege, right? Lost his daughter in a car crash, divorce, lost a business in a fire, and I don't have any privilege, and I've had to work really, really hard. We talked about off camera before. I'm grinding 16, 17, 18 hours every day, to make it work, and that's what they want to do, and they want to be rewarded for that hard work.
Yep. And they should be.
And then and the reason I say that is to tie this as we close, that he is taking the hard work of other people and he is using it to his advantage. And that is not at all okay.
Nice way to close that circle.
Yeah. It's not okay. Yep.
Hey, a lot of people have asked how they can support the work we're doing here at Matt Logan Speaks. Well, you see this hammer that I got in my hand? It's pretty big. All you have to do is hammer the share button. Go ahead and hammer out a comment to us. Go ahead and hammer the like button. Go ahead and hammer the subscription button. Go ahead and hammer the notification bell so that when we have new content up, you're the first to know about it. We really appreciate the comments, shares, likes, because you know what? That's the best way you can support us, because the algorithms on all these fancy computers, that's what they need. We appreciate it.